You need to be doing more. Stop aiming for quality and focus on pumping out as many iterations of what you are doing as possible. Quantity outworks quality. When you start with quality, you spend all of your time perfecting things here and tweaking things there, when you have no fucking clue on what to do. It is insane. You expect yourself to be a professional when you haven't even begun to be an amateur. Most people start learning a new skill, and when they feel they can do it on their own, they try and account for everything that may go wrong. They overcomplicate the situation and limit themselves to a particular framework. They aim to build something as perfect as possible and don't like the thought of being seen as imperfect. But having this whole thought process is inefficient and it doesn't get you where you want to be as fast as you can get there. Aiming for perfection is an endless task. There is always something to improve upon, so aiming for perfection at the start is simply silly. It is much better to aim to produce as much as possible, even at a detriment to quality, because through quantity comes quality. When you produce more, and each time you do, you try something new, you'll be much more experienced and have much more knowledge. You may have heard of the story about the photography professor who divided his classroom in half. Half the classroom would be graded solely on the amount of photos they took. The more photos, the higher the grade. The other half would be graded by having a perfect photo. The closer the photo was to being perfect, the higher the grade. A perfect case of quantity versus quality. By the end of the year, all of the best photos were taken by the quantity side of the class, even though they weren't trying to take the best picture. This was because whilst the quality side were contemplating and thinking and theorizing about the best photo and what the best photo could be, the quantity side were busy taking photos, playing around with the camera, they were playing around with the exposure, the contrast, all the settings. They had a much better idea of how their equipment worked and what type of settings worked in each environment. Another fact that supports this principle is that with repeated practice, a process called synaptic plasticity is activated. Synaptic plasticity is where the brain forms neural pathways through repeated practice, which strengthens the connection between neurons. The more you practice a skill or response, the more those pathways are reinforced, making the action easier to recall and execute. Me creating these videos displays this principle. I'm uploading a video every day, so I'm becoming better at everything that is involved in the recording process. On this video and the previous one, and the one before that, I have scripted them, built an outline of the story I want, a viewer profile for my intended viewer, and I am creating proper thumbnails. I'm not just leaving it to a cut of the video. Whereas before I was just pressing record. As I do this process for every video I upload, there will be visible improvements because I will be getting better at editing, scripting, titling, everything involved with video creation. I will be getting better at. Once you have learnt as much as possible from quantity, you can then start the shift to quality. Use what you have learnt and create the best that you can create, even if it takes longer, because now you have a foundation to build from. You understand what works, what doesn't work, you know how to get from point A to point B, you know how to get back on track, or know where you can go to help you get back on track. You are no longer running blindly through this maze of information. You have experience and knowledge to back it up. Now you can aim for perfection. You have an idea of the variables that may interfere, how to handle them, and you have a more complete idea of what perfection is. At the end of the day, most people want to have a few masterpieces rather than have an array of average creations, or above average creations. But all the people who made the masterpieces produced thousands of average creations first. Start with quantity, and then move to quality. So, to summarize what you need to do, after you know the skill you want to learn, practice it as much as possible. Put in as many reps as you can. Build your neural network and familiarize yourself with your equipment. Produce as many average creations as you possibly can. Once you feel you are at a place where you have learnt the majority of your discipline, then move over for perfection. Build your masterpieces. Become your own Da Vinci.